What up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm MoedotJ and we are locked in. This is the mid-season finale for Ozarks episode 7. We got a lot on our plates here. We're trying to get Navarro up out the game. Javi has just taken over and it's up to Marty to set him up. And we seen what he's doing with the feds. He's recording Javi admitting to these bombings. Now, before we get into this episode, shout out to the notification gang. If you're new to the channel, you want to be a part of it, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell so you get something every time I upload. Hit that like button. It's the easiest thing you can do. And the feud between Wendy and Darlene is really picking up. Darlene is trying to get Jonah on her side. Wendy called Child Protective Services and said, hey, you know, Darlene, I don't think she should be able to have that kid, especially with her having that heart attack. So we're about to see how this mid-season finale is in episode 7 of the Ozarks. We start the episode off with Marty getting dressed. Now, he's starting to think about him and his old business partner. And, you know, his business partner was flashy, but that's because he was actually stealing money from the cartel, and that's how he ended up dead. We know that Marty, they're starting to look for new offices so they can relocate back to Chicago. So this is what has him thinking about what happened before all of this Ozark started off. Now, his business partner, Bruce, he wanted to do it up. They wanted a new office space. Like I said, he was stealing money from the cartel. That's how he ended up dead. But you see, Marty, he's here and he agrees with it. He's like, Bruce, let's go ahead and do that. Put that in. Get that realtor. Let's get that new space. The 4 signs we need to look for in this episode is the campfire, wedding rings. It looks like a Christmas tree that's bent over or sagging to the side, and somebody with a shotgun, maybe a woman, maybe Darlene. Darlene killed Frank of the Kansas City mob. We also seen Wyatt ran over there to talk to Ruth, and she's convinced them that they could finally leave because she'll have enough money. The only thing is, when Wyatt went back over there, Darlene was crying because they're going to take Zeke away from her. So he goes back and he tells Ruth, I can't leave with you. I have to stay here. I have to be here for Darlene and the kid. And Ruth she's hurt because she wants to get her cousin out of this nonsense because Darlene then stirred up and kicked the hornet's nest. The first sign is the Christmas tree. This is at the mall, the abandoned mall, that Omar Navarro is going to talk with the FBI to try to broker a deal. The meeting is here. Omar, Jim, Marty, and Wendy, they're meeting up with the feds. We seen in the last episode, Omar handed over the organization to his nephew Javi. So he's trying to make a deal with the FBI. I'm giving you all kinds of shipments that you guys are seizing, and I'm also giving you a way to capture my nephew. But I want to be able to move freely between Mexico and the United States and have nothing to do with this. The FBI, they said after looking through this thoroughly, what they want to do is have Omar stay in charge of the cartel. He gives them regular seizures just to make it seem like they're working. And after 5 years, they'll grant him the ability to walk away from this freely. Now, you know, they're not going to put any of this in paperwork. So Jim is hearing this and he's saying, no, that's not what we came here for. The deal is for him to get clemency right now. But this is what the feds do. All of this conflict and the interest that they had with the Contras down there in Colombia, when all this stuff is going on in Nicaragua back in the 90s, this is pretty much what they're doing right now. Agent Miller, she hears this. Now she's upset and she goes to her boss like, what is the agency doing? This is what you wanted. You wanted to take the head of the cartel down. But we know it's bigger than her. This is higher than her pay grade. The FBI and the government still want to work with them because now they're still getting stuff. It looks good on the news. Oh, the FBI sees this. The DEA did this. And also any other kingpins in Mexico, he'll give them information on that. So when you have an inside man such as Omar Navarro, you're winning. It's a win-win for you. And then after 5 years, if he doesn't die, hey, we didn't say that. Now we can just arrest you. Omar calls him out on this. They're talking about business will be as usual. You'll give us some things to stop and we'll be good. But the only thing is he already handed over the Navarro cartel to his nephew. And what he's saying is the FBI wants him to kill his nephew and pay for the privilege of being able to do all this for 5 years. It's a lose-lose deal because if anybody in the organization finds this out, they could easily turn against them. Now, of course, the feds and the army and everybody would be cracking down on the Navarro cartel. But it's still bad for him because he'll be dead and his nephew is dead. They're in an abandoned mall, it looks like, because you don't want anything to be recorded, anyone to see everybody coming in here. You got to remember, Navarro is the head guy of a cartel, so they had to sneak him in here. He goes off to the side and he's upset because he knows he's not going to get this in paperwork. And he also knew I shouldn't have trust any gringos, any Americans. So coming here, this whole deal, it was never going to go through. They just wanted to use him to move forward in the future. Navarro was upset, so he hits some glass and he has blood on his hand. But he agrees with what the feds want because he really doesn't have a choice at this point. Now, Wendy, she starts taping up his hand and he's like, oh, thank you, Wendy. But he also said, when the kids are gone and you're in a dark room, don't forget about me. I don't know what he meant by that, but it was kind of weird. After Omar leaves, Marty comes over and he's like, what was that? She's like, oh, it's nothing. He just said, don't forget about me. But they lay down because really with Navarro doing this, they're not going to have to launder any money because he's going to have the backing from the FBI. So it's kind of a relief. But at the same time, they work directly with Navarro and they might have to look over their backs because, hey, man, you got me working with the feds now. This is kind of y'all problem. Y'all were supposed to set this up so I would be good to go. Javi's in charge. He's checking the books. He wants to know how much the casino's making. Is the strip club doing good? Oh, and how is Shaw Pharmaceuticals making deals without my product? Now, Claire, on the other hand, she hears all this and she's already nervous about the whole thing because it's illegal what she's doing. She starts spilling the beans. Oh, Marty Byrde did this. He's dealing with some little girl. I don't really know her name. It's curly hair. Damn, bro. Is anybody loyal to anybody? But then again, this is the dope game. This is the drug. This is pharmaceuticals. Big pharma. We know nobody plays fair here. Marty and Wendy, they get back and they start talking to Charlotte. Guess what? We moving to Chicago. We get to start our lives all over. We're going to have a little bit of money too. And that's all Charlotte wanted to hear. You remember she didn't want to come out here because she had friends and a life in Chicago. Now she's hearing this. Good. We can get out these damn Ozarks. Ruth goes to meet with Frank Jr. You remember, she's the only one that knows that Frank Sr. is dead other than Wyatt and Darlene. And she already told Frank Jr. that he's gone. So what she's doing is saying, my cousin Wyatt doesn't have anything to do with this. No one even has to know that your dad is gone. You're just in charge of the KC mob, but don't do anything to my cousin. Frank Jr.'s, he's thinking about his next move. He's in here drinking. He's like, man, this money you gave me, that ain't enough to cover my dad because she tried to give him some bread. He still wants to get Darlene. One, because she shot his balls off, and then two, she killed his dad. So you already know he about to limp himself down there and he wants some action. But then again, that money is in front of Frank Jr. and he's like, you know what? You got my word. I won't touch her. I'm going to leave her alone. I ain't got nothing to do with it. While Navarro is trying to leave, headed to his plane. We about to get on our private jet. We about to head back to Mexico. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with Javi. Guess what? The feds, they arrest him right there on the spot, led by Agent Miller. She's not letting the cartel leader leave. After all this work she's been putting in, after being scared, taken away from her son to go talk to him, she arrests him against the words of the top FBI guy. Now, everyone is starting to see this because, of course, this is going to be the biggest news at any moment. The largest cartel leader, Omar Navarro, arrested in the States. Yeah, it doesn't get any bigger than that. It's like when El Chapo got caught. After hearing this information, you see the Byrdes, they packing up everything. We got to go. Navarro could think that we did it. Javi could think that we did it. So we got to move. They're packing up stuff, a couple of food. They also get this shotgun to give to Charlotte because she needs to go get Jonah. Navarro's arrested. Marty's trying to smooth things over and figure out how they can make this happen. He goes back and talks to Miller's bosses. And he's saying, look, we can get the same deal to Javi where he takes over. He runs things and then he'll get clemency after like 5 years. Now they're thinking about it. And they're like, but Omar's already gave over the cartel and he's in FBI custody. He's not going to be able to do anything inside of here. So they're thinking, okay, we could do that because they still want to have that connection. Marty is scrambling. Now he needs to call Javi and say, hey, we can get you this deal. But when Javi answers the phone, he brings up, I told my uncle not to get rid of Helen. I told him to get rid of the other white meat, talking about Marty. And he tells Marty straight up, now I get the chance to kill you. But Marty is saying, no, look. Hey, Javi, hear me out, man. We ain't had nothing to do with that. But we can get you a deal, the same deal that they were going to give your uncle, man. Just listen to us. He tells him, okay, we'll hear. You got 90 minutes to make this happen. Look at Agent Miller with her son. Her mom, she's already been suspicious, and she heard her on the phone talking about a few things. So when they see this arrest and they see that Agent Miller was on there, her daughter, she's saying, what have you done? And you heard Miller say, I did my job. Now, I'm with everybody doing their job, but this here is going above and beyond, like in a bad way. Your bosses didn't want this man arrested, but now that he's arrested, they have to go through with this because all the eyes are on it. Mr. 25-8 investigator male. He sees Jonah and Charlotte talking, and she's telling Jonah, we got to go right now. This is not a game. The cartel, they arrested. They could be on the look for anybody. And he's listening to this. We know he's been following Jonah. He's been trying to piece together things because he knows the cartel could potentially have something to do with Helen, especially with the Byrdes being tied into this. So he's just listening. We're going to get some information out of this. Everybody's running around to figure out what they're going to do. You remember Jim, he was just with them trying to broker the deal for Omar Navarro. Well, now he's at the house and he's telling Marty, you need to get here ASAP. I have paperwork for you to sign. But you have to remember, Marty just had a 90-minute deadline. So he's like, I can't make it over there right now. But Jim is saying, if you don't come sign these documents, it's going to get very bad quickly. Ruth, she goes and meets with this lady, Chuck. Now, Chuck knows about Ruth's mom, and she's just going over how much she knew her mom and the growth of Ruth. She also does a lot with seeds. So she's giving Ruth different type of seeds to try out. Wendy, she's in the jail cell trying to talk to Omar to convince him to call his nephew, Javi, and let him know I've been working with the FBI. He's going to get the same deal. But Omar, you remember he told her at the deal in the mall, don't forget about me. So he's very disappointed in Wendy and Marty for allowing this to happen. They were supposed to have Agent Miller in their back pocket, but she went against the grain and had him locked up. Jim told Marty to come over to sign some paper, but it turns out it was a setup. Javi is there and he pistol whips our boy Marty, puts him on the ground, and he's about to kill him. Now Marty is begging for his life. You hear Jim in the back talking, hey man, you ain't got to do all that. He turns around, shut the fuck up. Jim like, hey yo, my bad. Do what you gotta do, Javi. I ain't zip. Now Marty is begging for his life at this point, saying we can get you a deal. What he's waiting on is the phone call from Omar to talk to Javi and say that I got the same deal. You need to accept it. Marty's on the ground. He told Marty to go get him something to drink. Pistol whips him again. But the phone call comes in while Javi has a gun to Marty's face. He answers it, and it's Omar. And you can hear him saying, "Sí," yes, in Spanish. I'm going to take this deal because if you can cooperate with the feds and keep them off your back and still run your drug organization, that's a win for you. But will you get that freedom in the end? Or could they potentially pull what they just did on Omar? At least we got through to Javi and Marty is still living. But when Omar gets up, he tells Wendy, I'm very disappointed in you. You of all people. But if I'm not free in 48 hours, his guard, yeah, he has permission to go ahead and kill all of the Byrdes. So Omar, they're giving him 48 hours to get up out of here. But if it doesn't come through, the Byrdes, y'all need to look out because they got direct orders to get rid of you. The Navarro cartel is not playing around with their boss. Marty told Charlotte to go get Jonah and take him to the grave site, you know, where they have the tombstone where they can go inside of. So that's where they're at. And they're sitting here bunkered down. They had that shotgun because no one should know where this is except for Ruth. Now they're sitting in here and Charlotte is trying to tell him, hey, we're going back. You know, maybe you should come back with us. But Jonah, he doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay here. He thinks that he's smart enough to continue to do everything that he's doing. But one little mistake, like what happened with his mom flagged it account, he wasn't able to come back from that. He needed his father. The next sign is the campfire. Now, this campfire is significant because Marty is telling Ruth, look, I'm trying to make a deal with the feds. If it doesn't work, Ruth, I want you to ensure that Charlotte and my son Jonah, they will be good and protected by you. Ruth is really the only person that he trusts outside of his family. And I don't even think he really trusts his family that much. But he knows he can go to Ruth. And even though that they have their differences, she's one that she's going to make sure that Jonah and Charlotte are straight. So that's what he's here letting her know. Because if it goes bad, him and Wendy, they're pretty much dead. We already seen Javi had that pistol to his head earlier today. Next, we see Ruth talking to her cousin 3. He's getting ready to go to the wedding for Mr. and Mrs. Wyatt Snail, because I doubt she's going to take the Langmore name. And we don't really hear too much from 3, and we don't never ever see him dressed up like this. But Ruth, she says she's not going to go to the wedding because when Wyatt left, she asked could she at least come, and he pretty much said no because he knows Darlene doesn't want her there. It hurts because it's family, but this is what Wyatt wants. Wendy's back is against the wall. She just heard Navarro say, if he ain't out in 48 hours, they're dead. So she goes to Miller's bosses and tells them, look, unless y'all make something happen, y'all give Javi the same deal that y'all were going to do Omar, let Omar out in 48 hours. I'm exposing everything that I know about this meeting. Now you got to remember, Wendy does have some power. Her and Marty, they got $150 million. They got Shaw Pharmaceuticals on their side. They got Jim, who has a lot of politicians in his pocket. So the feds, they're listening to this and they're like, you're not going to tell anybody. But Wendy's not playing. And she told them, call my bluff. You got to understand, they are scrambling around. And I'm talking about everybody. We got our kids hiding. Wendy's got to go to talk to Omar. She got to go talk to the feds. Marty's trying to set up a meeting with Javi because he just got the call. So he goes to the funeral parlor and it's a man looking, okay, I'm going to get this casket for my wife. And they're like, yeah, this casket's good. Marty said, I don't give a damn what you doing here. You got 5 minutes to get out of here. Give him 15% off. Give him 20% off. But y'all got to get out of here because his family's life is on the line. I thought this was a very funny moment because the dude was like, oh, my wife. Marty said, I don't give a damn. Y'all need to get up out of here right now. The meeting is taking place in the funeral parlor, and they're telling Javi, you'll get the same thing. But after 10 years, he's like, are you sure I'm going to be able to get my immunity? And of course, they're not going to put this in writing. But if he doesn't cooperate or something doesn't go as they want it, the full force of the military is going to be on this cartel. And you hear Javi saying, oh, no, not the full force of the military. He ain't scared to go to war. They ask Javi, do we have a deal? They try to shake his hand. He looks at him. Yeah, we got a deal. He ain't shaking no hands with no gringo. The third sign are wedding rings. Wyatt and Darlene, as soon as we hear Javi accept his deal, they accept this marriage and holy macaroni. Darlene's looking all good. The perfect power couple. Wendy and Marty, they come back to talk to Omar after the deal with Javi has been put in place. Now, Omar's saying my kids, they should never want for anything. My reach is deep, meaning my kids are going to be straight. Y'all need to make sure that they're straight too. And they're saying, okay. And also Wendy is saying, we didn't tell Javi that you actually gave over the cartel to him to give to the FBI and set him up. Omar's not trying to hear that. But he mentions to Marty and Wendy that he ain't playing around about not getting out in 48 hours. He just said, and I know you left your kids at a gravesite with a shotgun barricaded in. That means his people have been watching Jonah and Charlotte this whole time. Claire is scared because she's been dealing directly with Javi now. Even though she got the drugs from Marty and Ruth and all the nonsense that they had to go through, she's telling Wendy, I don't want to deal with him face to face. He scares me. He's a creep. Yeah, that dude is scary because he's unpredictable and it seems like he just doesn't give a F. But Wendy is saying after this next deal, you don't have to deal with him anymore. Why? Because he's going to be dealing with the feds. And there's going to be other things that's got to be taking place. So I'm thinking that they're going to get all their drugs probably from Ruth. That's what the plan is. But really, they're about to be heading to Chicago. Just how we started the episode with Marty thinking about him and Bruce when they were pulling the trigger on getting them some new office space. He's doing the same thing here. So it's pretty much a full 360. He's back to where he was, buying some new property in Chicago. Mr. 25-8, investigator Mel, he ends up getting Agent Miller's number. Now she's saying, how did you get this number? He's like, yeah, I was a complete dick when you had your gun on me out there. You know what I'm saying? You pulled your gun on me the back of Byrde's house. But anyway, back to business. I seen that arrest that you made on the news. I'm a huge fan. I want to know what's going on with Marty and Wendy. Why are you hanging out with them, and what's the connection with this cartel? So Mel, he's working nonstop. All he's looking for is a signature for Helen. Now I'm thinking this may be a little bit deeper than him being a PI for Helen's ex-husband, because he's digging a little too much to just try to find out where Helen is. Well, it turns out Darlene, she did take the Langmore name. And then they started talking about Ezekiel Langmore Snell. That's a handful of a name. Now, when they come in the house, Mr. Javi's in here. Now, we know the Navarro cartel and the Snells, their rivalry goes back a couple of seasons. And Javi ain't here to play around. When I tell you he's not playing around, I told you, whenever you pull a gun on somebody, it shouldn't be a lot of talking. So he got his point across and he shoots Darlene. All he said was, "We told you from the beginning, stop selling heroin." Well, pow, she shot. Now, Wyatt ain't got nothing to do with this, but we can't leave any witnesses. He looks at Wyatt and says, "Sorry, whoever you are," and shoots him in the head. Damn. Was marriage worth it? Was it worth it? Ruth shows up with the seed she just got to congratulate her cousin Wyatt and her new cousin Darlene Langmore. But when she gets there, she can hear the baby crying and no one's doing anything. So she knocks and the door is open and she sees her cousin Wyatt laying out on the couch. The first thing she does is call Frank Jr. "What the did you do?" He's like, "Man, I didn't do nothing to Darlene. You told me not to. I didn't do anything." So she is trying to figure out who the hell killed her cousin. And Frank Jr. is like, "Bruh, I didn't do anything. I'm in Kansas City at a bar right now. I didn't do anything." And our last sign of the evening is Ruth Langmore with the shotgun. She goes over to the Byrdes because she says, "I know y'all know something about this. Y'all know who did this." And they're like, "Nah, we don't know nothing about this." But Ruth, she's talking about the only way you gonna stop me, y'all need to give me a name, is to fucking kill me. They're like, "Oh shit, Ruth, we don't know." But then Wendy says, "Man, it's a very dangerous person." Oh man.
Hey.
Of course, the person that does give up the name is this Javi. Is young Jonah. Man. Ruth, this second season, second half, whatever you want to call it, is about to be crazy. Ruth speeds off, and you got to remember, she has the baby seat in the front. I'm talking about Ruth and young Ezekiel Langmore Snell. She's driving off. Fuck! There you go, episode 7 of the Ozarks. Let me know what you think is going to happen with Omar and his nephew. And also, going into the next half of this season, what is Ruth going to do to Javi? Is she going to actually make it over there? Let me know what you guys think. I'm MoedotJ. If you like the content on the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'm out.
Jimmy on a beat, boy.